Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Agency Way. This week is Agency 20. We're going to be talking about personal selling, social selling, and personal branding, rather, on LinkedIn. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm going to do a screen share this time, which is a little bit different than dropping a link in. Ideally, this will actually show up in the recording. And the only disadvantage is that I'm not going to be able to see your beautiful faces or even your comments in the chat stream. So I'm relying on Erica Stutzman, my co-host, who is here to help moderate and interrupt me as needed. As I was saying before, I had the privilege of presenting in front of about 240 salespeople last Friday on this concept of personal branding and social selling on LinkedIn. And so I'm excited because I've done a lot of research. There are already some things that I thought I knew, that in fact, I do know, but I was able to double check myself. Bottom line is I'm hoping to share something with you today that will be really valuable. And, there's a big difference between learning something versus actually applying what you learn. And so today, hopefully, you'll walk away with something that you can actually apply. So I'm going to jump into this, but before I do, because I'm just going to be talking, it's not going to be so much discussion at first. Does anybody have any questions I can answer off the bat? And Erica, I'm just looking to you for my eyes and ears since I can't see.
There are none so far. I posted a link to our blog so that if this screen share doesn't show up in the replay, we'll have the entire thing embedded in a blog post tomorrow morning.
Oh, good. Awesome. Thanks for doing that. Okay, really quickly, then I'm just going to jump into this. First of all, personal branding, what does that even mean and why should we care? This is Wikipedia's definition, and I'll just read it to you. It's the practice of people marketing themselves and their careers as brands. And then I like this second half too. This idea really suggests that success comes from self-packaging. And so cool, but why do we care, right? And we'll get into this. So the story I like to tell is, as an agency guy, I'm co-founder of Room 214 that's been around for about 11 years now. There's a really awesome guy out there. His name's Rob High. He's like an old wise sage for agencies, and he spends a lot of his time traveling the United States, teaching agencies, marketing agencies, how to be better. And if you think of Rob High, you think Mad Men. He's like a guy who closed over $1 billion in sales, back in the 60s, early ad age type stuff going on. Anyway, his biggest lesson to us is that you are your own best client. And what he means by that is eventually, no matter how good you are, every one of your clients is going to fire you. And that's, at first you're like, wait, no, that's not right. But it's just life, sometimes people just want to change. Sometimes companies get bought, people move on, whatever. And so even though that applies certainly to my agency and to me as an agency owner, what I will just submit to you is it's the same for you as an individual. You really are your own best client. And how does that work? Well, the bottom line is you won't fire you. And so when you start thinking about personal branding and how does that even work for you, this is why this stuff starts to become really important. This Intuit market study that you see with over 40% of American workers being temps, contractors, and freelancers by 2020, this study's about 3 years old. I have a feeling that statistically, though, they're not coming out with anything that's updated. And so it's just interesting to think from a personal branding perspective, what does your identity look like online? And I love this quote by Longfellow, judging ourselves by what we feel capable of doing, but essentially others are judging us by what we've already done. And so what does that even look like, right? What, in terms of what we've already done? Is it a old school printed resume, or is it something more dynamic and differentiated? And so we're going to get into this today. I love this. This top quote is actually adapted from Good to Great, slightly modified, but great people do what others know they should do, but don't. Isn't that the truth? I mean, can't you just think of a few things that you should do or should have done, but you haven't done yet? And the examples I like to pick out in this context is just, the professional photo opportunity that you have in LinkedIn, and this idea that, you're 14 times more likely to be found on LinkedIn if you have a professional photo. This other one, the second bullet point, is huge. There's over 433 million people on LinkedIn, and roughly half have even completed their profile, and the half that has completed their profile, 40 times more likely to be able to successfully connect with others. And so, I look at that and I think, okay, people, there's some low hanging fruit out here. There's stuff that we can all be doing in terms of our own personal LinkedIn effort, but then there's, this also can apply to a business page, associated showcase pages under that business page. So from a personal branding perspective, awesome. But it's also important to understand that this definitely can apply to what you're doing with your company on LinkedIn as well. So cruising right along. So why LinkedIn? These stats actually come from a great resource. By the way, I've got links on the final page of this deck that will link you to resources. I seriously picked out like 6 points out of 8 pages worth of stats. I just grabbed the ones that I thought were most relevant to focus on. And so let's just real quick, let's visit the third bullet point here. The idea that LinkedIn messages have a higher open rate than email. I don't know about you guys, but my email inbox is like a battlefield. Yeah. And, this is for real. If your open rate is greater inside of LinkedIn than email, that's really something to consider, especially if you're using email as a part of your marketing, which, by the way, I hope you are. This other second to the last bullet point I'd like to emphasize, because herein lies the opportunity, right? You've got 128 million people in the US who are on LinkedIn, and you can see the 433 worldwide. The idea that only 1 million of them are publishing posts within LinkedIn's platform means there's amazing opportunity here. Why do I say that? And we'll touch on this a little bit in the presentation, but definitely one of the biggest opportunities inside of LinkedIn is taking advantage of their publishing platform. And so, think about if you blog, if you write a blog, your blog may be awesome. Now, who's actually reading your blog and looking at it and all that kind of stuff? I mean, yeah, you can visit Google Analytics. Yes, there's people that subscribe to, email updates and maybe even your RSS feed on your blog, but it's not like they're just getting notified when you post. The bulk of people, I should say, that you somehow have a connection with. Whereas in LinkedIn, when you publish on LinkedIn, everybody who you're connected with gets a notification. And so there's great opportunity there, considering that relatively not that many people are posting. I think this kind of brings up a bigger point too. When you look at how active this discussion about live streaming is, whether it's Blab, more recently Facebook, live streaming, it's like we've heard so much about the what it is and the why it's important. But we're not really getting so much into the how lately. And I just think it's really interesting because if nothing else, Periscope has taught us that there are very few people that will actually that will step up and get in front of the camera. And that applies to those of us who choose to write too, and be really proactive in terms of how we market ourselves and our company. Most people are watching, they're consuming. Really a very relatively small few are actually out there creating this content in a way that, they're putting themselves out there, their companies, et cetera. And so all that just to say that there's an amazing amount of opportunity here. And then this last bullet point I think is really interesting too. 59% of people that are on LinkedIn are not on Twitter. And so, I'm a huge Twitter fan, and I use Twitter to draw attention to my posts, to promote others. But, you've got essentially two different audiences here when you look at that statistic. So getting into the tips, right? People, companies, I should say, love strategy. The reality is they pay for tactics. And so on that note, I'm just going to throw some tactics at you guys, but they're really important, in terms of low-hanging fruit and what makes the greatest difference. This is what it's all about. And so, this idea of a professional photograph, what we see is that there are reams and reams of research that prove direct eye contact with a smile, both in photographs and in person, subconsciously creates trust. So if that's the case, how do we foster that trust? And what you see here are 4 examples of actual LinkedIn profiles. And I'm sorry if you are a person who will be watching this recording or live who's seeing yourself in this. It's highly doubtful, but it is possible. It's a small world. Anyway, I just want to focus on the first two on the, or I'm sorry, the last two on the right with the little green border around them. I don't know if you can see it. But, you know, just think to yourself, what are your first impressions when you look at these people? You know, starting on to the guy from the right, I look at him and personally, I think this guy looks clean. He's organized, motivated. I look at the woman, you know, next to him, and I think my first impression is there's a bit of a maternal thing going on, but for me, I just look at her and I think, okay, this woman looks like she can take care of business, and she it feels like she's a go-getter, right? Now let's look at these other two on the left. And by the way, the funny thing about this is both of these guys are presidents of marketing agencies. Huh. And so the guy on the left, when I look at him, I think this dude is checking out the surf. He's definitely not getting done what I'm paying him to do. I look at the other guy, the black and white photo, and I apologize about this, but this guy looks like he just rolled out of bed and maybe popped a painkiller. I don't know. So, you know, it just, and all of this just again to show, you know, what is the difference. And then back to Rob High, you know, his big lesson with you are your own client. He says that beyond everything you do, fancy pitches, all of these things that you do for your marketing, you know, trying to show that you're a person that could come up with great ideas. At the end of the day, the goal is to help them like you and to help them trust you. And that's always what you're trying to solve. In marketing, I mean, everything really hangs on that. Do they like you? Do they trust you? Whether that's with a brand, an individual, et cetera. But that's really the name of the game. So number 2 on our top 10 LinkedIn profile tactics today, develop a compelling headline. And so when we talk about headline, I want to make sure everybody's clear on what that is. If you look at your LinkedIn profile, you know, there's your name. And then, excuse me, this section right here is your headline. And so the idea is, how can you maximize? You get about 120 characters here. And how do you really maximize what's in your headline beyond just maybe your title and your job description, right? And so if you can throw something personal in there, and you want to be able to use keywords, right? So for me, for example, a keyword is digital marketing. It's social media agency. This obviously will get indexed by Google, and it's a huge part of LinkedIn's overall search algorithm. And so you just want to make sure that you are being strategic, operating out of precision on this. So next one, make it easier for people to contact you. So, you know, LinkedIn has its own area where you can, you know, put in links to your websites or whatever. I think the point is, don't just rely on LinkedIn's format to display your contact information. And by the way, don't be afraid to have contact information that is your email address, your phone number. A good strategy for this is creating and uploading a background image. And so I'll just show you a quick example of this. So here you see this top image right here is the one that I created. I think I just used canva.com to create that. And I did it quick. My design creative services team is probably going to be like, hey man, we can help you with that. So, but you can see what it looks like, you know, over here on my LinkedIn profile. And, you know, is it going to look different on mobile? Of course it is. But there's still an opportunity to have something that's differentiated. You know, you can see here, I've got, you know, a suggestive idea. I've got my email address, my phone number, my Twitter handle. And it's prominent there for people to see. So definitely take advantage of the space that they provide you. By the way, if you're going to, what you're looking at on my account is an unpaid LinkedIn account. If you decide you want to pay for LinkedIn's monthly account, and I believe it ranges from around $30 a month to 65, you will get a better, bigger space to showcase more of a message here. Along with various other levels of access with respect to search, emailing people inside the network, et cetera. Get third-party endorsements. And so, you know, like anything in social media or in life, let's just say, it's a lot easier to get when you give. So you can really start looking at connections you have, existing connections you have, and considering just giving endorsements, right? So you can give endorsements here where you're essentially just, you're pressing on areas of expertise, and it's a mouse click and you're endorsing somebody. You could go the next level and actually write them a recommendation. And so that's great. It's definitely okay to ask for endorsements. Again, it's just better to try to get them or give them before you get them. And then also there is a section that's specific to LinkedIn or to certifications, awards, honors, etc. Definitely use that. That it's funny about one thing we see in social media that has been kind of age old is just reviews, right? And the reason why reviews work is it's because others are telling your story for you, not you telling your own story. And so, third party endorsements, this whole concept is called social proof, right? And you're really just getting others to say what you're good at and where you're great versus you trying to do that all yourself. Using keywords strategically, don't want to spend a lot of time on this. The idea is, just like if you were creating your own website, you don't want to stuff keywords in there. You just want to be considerate of them and think about where they show up. And these are different sections of your LinkedIn profile page where you could definitely insert keywords. And since we're doing a slide share, maybe I'll head over to my LinkedIn page shortly and we'll see if we can do a little live demo stuff. I'm just doing a time check because I'm trying to keep this down to a half an hour, if that's possible. All right. Actually complete your profile seriously. And so I already covered that top stat, 40 times more likely to connect with others if you can complete that profile. What does it mean to complete the profile? What does that even look like? Well, here you go. It's 50 connections, your current position, past 2 positions, skills, profile photo, etc. So you can kind of see that here. And then reordering the sections within your profile. So in LinkedIn, you can drag and drop in order of your strengths. So here you see these different areas. And real quick, maybe this is a good time where I can come in and let's look at this together. Okay, so here's my profile. If I want to edit my profile, I'll just go over here. How's this showing up, Erica?
It looks good.
Okay, cool. All right, so see here, I've got my summary. I've got my skills and endorsements. By the way, a lot of people don't know this, but you can drag and drop your skills and endorsements too. So watch this, check it out. So if I come over here, let's say I want online marketing to show up in more prominent positions, so I'm more likely to get endorsements on that thing. I can click edit. Now I'm in edit mode. And what I can do is grab online marketing, wherever that was. Oh, here it is. And I can just go zing, drag it right up here and bada bing. There you go. So a lot of times it's the first 4 endorsements that people are really looking at. So one philosophy, here, I'll just hit cancel. One philosophy is, hey, put the ones that you already have the most endorsements on at the very top. But another philosophy is the ones that you really want to grow your endorsements, get those up near the top as well. So, so I'll just share something with you in full embarrassing transparency. I just added LinkedIn marketing as a skill I want people to endorse me on. And guess who has endorsed me? Guess who my first endorsement is? That's my wife. Nice. Yeah. Isn't that sweet? Geez, maybe I should reach out to my teenage kids.
Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, you guys get the picture, but in terms of let's just say publications. Okay. So I've written some things. I could just go right here and drag that if I wanted to and put that above my endorsements. And now you see my endorsements are below that, right? And so when you go through your profile, you really just want to consider, what do you want to really showcase? And this content is always, you always want to tilt it towards your potential buyer. So definitely have that in mind as well. All right, popping back into the deck. So ensure everyone can see you. This is a matter of going into your privacy settings inside of LinkedIn and making sure that people, like everyone, can see you and your updates when you publish, and not just your network. So because of time, I'm not going to go into this, but This is something you can dig in. And the easiest way to access this, by the way, is just click on your own image in the top right of your LinkedIn profile, and you'll see all the settings, and you can go into privacy from there. Leverage the new publishing feature. We're really going to talk about this some more. I know a lot of people are like, oh, maybe I'm not a good writer, or geez, do I really have to do that? I'm already doing all these other things in social networks. And what I would say to you, knowing that only 1 million out of 433 million are doing this, start small. Make a goal to publish something once a month inside of LinkedIn. 450 to 650 words. That's just a suggestion, by the way. This idea of 900 to 1400 words for potentially better results. You've got a better chance of getting on LinkedIn Pulse if your article is more developed. And LinkedIn Pulse will actually showcase your article to people beyond your own network, which is great. And you can do things like use links and rich media and stuff like that. And we'll talk about that. And I'll show you a little ninja trick too that I picked up from somebody else.
So Jason, we have a question.
Yeah.
Mr. Wonderful literally wants us to know if you're just using publish post to put your articles on there.
If we're just using publish posts.
Yeah. Do you just publish a post on there, or are there other ways that you're doing it?
Yeah, I do just publish a post. And so since he asked, this is really highly relevant to where I wanted to go as well. So if you just go to your home screen on LinkedIn, right, what you're going to see is you've got 3 options really in terms of action: update status, update a photo, publish a post. This is really what I'm talking about right here. So when you click publish a post, here's what happens. And I just want to say to you guys, for those of you that have any experience whatsoever in publishing in a blog platform, this is about as easy as it possibly gets.
Yeah.
I mean, here it is, right? Add an image to bring your post to life. Definitely add an image, by the way. And if you're like, oh, wait a minute, I'm not a designer. What do you mean add an image? There are plenty of resources out there. Replaythat.com, canva.com, like free platforms that enable you to easily create images. And a lot of us know about that already, but I throw it out there because some people will get to this point and go, image, nope. And so look, you scroll down, you get ready, you want to write a killer headline. Then look at this. Hey, start writing. How about that for instruction, right? So here I am writing. You want to be able to use features like an H1 tag, which gives you the headline. Then I can write more like this. I can use bullets. I mean, this is like as easy. This is, Microsoft Word documents more complex than this, right? So you guys get the picture. Now, something I want to show you as a little ninja trick here is, let me just go to the fastest way that I'm used to getting to this. Let's see. So I'll just go to my own profile and I'll show you a post that's already gone live and something that I've done. And this is really kind of cool. So here's something that I published a while back, March 21st. So you can see, here's my post. Now, again, back to that idea of not just relying on LinkedIn's like built-in format to do everything for you. You really want to be able to leverage like a call to action to help other people. When you write an article and you take the time to put these links in and stuff like that, and this is a really short one, you really want to take advantage of like sharing functionality, for example. So you see this, like this little LinkedIn button right here allows people to share, right? If I click on it, what's it do? It pops this up. I mean, you guys, if you've ever shared anything on LinkedIn, you're familiar with this, right? And then I can type in whatever. Right? Well, here's the deal. How about I copy this link? And instead of relying on people to know or think that they're even going to think about clicking on this little LinkedIn share button, how about I publish a post? Then I go back into edit. So here I am in edit mode for a post I've already published. I come over here and I highlight text that I wrote in, and you could do this with a button you snag from Google Images or whatever. I highlight this, and then I click on this. Well, in this case, it was already a link, but I click this link and then I just paste that share image that I grabbed. And now look, I've got a more specific call to action for people to do. And when they click on it, it'll pop up that same LinkedIn sharing box. So that's like one example of just being, a little creative about how you go about helping people share for you.
Now, hey, Jason, Madeline has a question. If you're publishing these posts on LinkedIn, do you use the exact same posts that you're putting on your blog, that you're authoring on your blog?
Right. So the quick answer to that is no. Definitely no. And even in the example that I just showed you, I had a more complete blog post and I referred people to that complete blog post. So this was a really small thing that I published and I referred people to that blog post. What I've been doing and what I've heard just in my research is it's totally okay to repurpose content from a blog you've already written, but definitely don't duplicate it. The reality with this platform is that Google is also indexing these posts. And so, okay, as a matter of practice, you want to avoid duplicate content. Other thing, so this article that I posted more recently, I'm just going to show you how much more this is involved. This was actually picked up by LinkedIn Pulse. So people that have Pulse on their mobile device and they're relying on that, LinkedIn app to give them fresh news about the industry or whatever. A lot of people saw this just from that. And what I can show you just following some best practice. So I've embedded a slide share here. It's just, it's a little more involved in terms of a complete post. Here's that help me share this, right? So I'm using that little ninja trick here. And then the other thing, and I picked this up too from a few experts, is feel free to insert your bio here at the bottom, right? Your phone number, again, reminding ways for people to contact you because people could see your post and not necessarily know who you are. And here's a quick way to get them familiar with you. So just quick best practice. All right, let's see where we are. So I'm going over a little bit and maybe I'll just do a part 2 so we can get into some of the other things here.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, I think I will. So where I'll end is, this is what Stephanie Sammons refers to as the 7 Ps. And Stephanie was one of the people that spoke on LinkedIn at Social Media Marketing World last month. And she's just an exceptional consultant and a real expert in the space. And so this is her thing. But what she has basically said is when it comes to creating your profile summary, which is the story about you, here are the things that you really want to focus on. Be personable. So for example, in my profile summary, I'm Jason Cormier. That's how it starts. I'm writing about myself in the first person. What am I passionate about? What's my perspective? What problem am I solving? Who are the people that I'm qualified to help? Each of us has a point of view. We all stand for something. We all have something to offer. And so, this idea of what is your gift for the world, you really want to be able to have that approach in your summary. Because a lot of times when you look at summaries, what you see is just kind of this slight extenuation or extension from what the job description was that you put as part of your headline. And it's like, it's just not interesting. And so, how do you differentiate yourself with that profile? And even in the conference that I give, I passed out a 1-pager that had these questions and we literally just shut down everything for 10 minutes and said, do nothing but focus on this. Use the hot pen technique where you don't overthink it. You're not trying to get it right. You just write whatever comes to mind, knowing that you can edit it later. But ultimately, this is a takeaway that you can apply, and finish and update your LinkedIn profile. So again, back to that idea of how do we apply what we learn and go beyond just, looking at a slide deck.
Yeah. Can I ask one more question? This is also from Madeline. She wants to know if there's etiquette as far as what your CTA is going to be at the end. Is it really just contact me and let's talk more, or can you do like a regular sales thing, like a real sales pitch?
Yeah, and so this is a great question. When it comes to contacting people, you really have a couple options, right? And so one is you can hit a connect button depending on how you're approaching those people. And it just automatically sends an invite. The other idea is you can click on them and actually, connect. And when you hit that connect button, there's an opportunity to write a message, right?
Okay.
It's always better to write a customized message. Gabe Villamazar, who's in charge of social selling over 65 salespeople, he has his rule of 3. And he basically says, when you're reaching out to people on LinkedIn, you are thinking about something that's personal to them, something about their company, and something about their industry. And you reach out to them in that kind of context. So for example, let's say I look at Erica's LinkedIn profile and I see she's like a freaking raging Broncos fan. It's just like a little comment that she puts in her profile summary somewhere, but I pick up on that. Right. And so I might reach out to her and say, first thing is I'm going to make it personal. Hey, Erica, it will be really interesting to see if the Broncos use that new quarterback they picked up this season. Hey, by the way, I saw that your company was on the top 5 list of, blah, blah, blah. I actually just read a Gartner report specific to, this industry that, of course, I'm keeping an eye on as well. Probably makes sense for us to connect.
Yeah.
Simple as that. Do not sell anything out of the gate, right? And then guess what? When you connect the next time, think about how you're adding value, how you're helping them. Maybe a good segue to connecting next time is, oh, hey, about that Gartner report that I mentioned. Here's an actual stat and a quote that I thought was really pretty interesting. Here's a link to it, by the way, if you think it would be helpful or whatever, right? And so there's a lot of conversation and practices around what's best in terms of reaching out to people and actually trying to pitch them something. Linkfluence has their whole strategy on reaching out to the media. And basically, some of the things that they say off the top of my head is they're like, write 4 emails in advance. And these are templates for reaching out to people. These are super short, by the way. And those first 4, or at least the first 3, all you're doing is giving. You're offering value. And that 4th, maybe there's a call to action. By the way, in terms of call to action, there's nothing wrong with having calls to action in the posts when you publish. And another great tip that I heard is if you use an online calendar application like Calendly, for example, definitely put a link. If your ultimate outcome using LinkedIn is to schedule an appointment with somebody or whatever that is. And by the way, you should figure out what that is. Make a goal. What is your ultimate outcome with LinkedIn? Right. Then, you can use tools in that way. But Linkfluence says, first 3, you're just giving. 4th email is when maybe you start asking for something. What Gabe would say is you figure out on your own how many touch points on average there needs to be before you're actually getting some real engagement. And somebody would reach out and say, yes, I want to do business with you. I want to help you. HireVue, which is the company Gabe works for, they figured out on average 22 touch points. A lot of the experts that I looked at who are at social media marketing world, they're saying 7 to 8 touch points on average. Jason Miller over at LinkedIn, who's the community manager over there, and he does a lot of other stuff. He'll tell you 10 engagements before someone's actually saying, they trust you enough to start wanting to do business with you.
I have another technical question for Mr. Wonderful that is more about the posts that you're making and less about just using LinkedIn. And that would be, do you use hashtags in your publications?
That's funny. I've never used a hashtag in a LinkedIn post.
On LinkedIn?
Yeah. It certainly couldn't help or hurt rather. Certainly couldn't help. It couldn't hurt.
I think that what that gets down to is that you're customizing your messages across different platforms for different audiences. So you can choose to, but you don't necessarily have to because it's a totally different audience.
It's a totally different audience. But here's the thing. If you're using a hashtag that's unique to a particular campaign that you're doing, whether it's a content push, a sale of some sort, whatever, you're going to use that hashtag in places like Twitter and Facebook.
Sure.
So, hey, if LinkedIn is part of your content push, why wouldn't you? You know, maybe it'll stick for people and they'll remember it, and who knows what they'll do with it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Great.
Well, I hope this was really helpful for everyone. I'm looking forward to seeing what the recording looks like because it's the first time we've ever done a screen share. And I really like the idea of doing live demos when we can, because I feel like people can get more out of actually seeing that versus just looking at stuff in slides. So
Yep.
Cool. Well, Erica, thanks so much.
Thank you. And we'll do a part 2 because I want to see the rest of those slides.
Yeah, very cool. All right. Part 2. Thank you, E-Boy. Thank you, everybody. Bronson Digital, what I miss. Here's what we should do, by the way, is let me give a link to you guys of the, I want to give the link to my, bear with me. So what you will see is a link to my full presentation along with a post that summarizes it inside of LinkedIn. So what I'm doing here is I'm actually forcing you kind of in a nice way to go to LinkedIn to see this, which is only appropriate, right? And so check that out. And like Erica said, we will get a blog post up very shortly. It's usually Friday or Monday, which will also include the presentation. And we'll talk about what we can cover in part 2 next week, which I'm really excited about.
We're kind of losing you here, Jason. So we'll follow up with a blog post tomorrow. And I hope you all join us for the part 2 of this conversation too.
All right. Thanks everybody for joining. I'm going to pause the record. If anybody wants to stay on and ask additional questions, feel free. Join us for episode 21 of The Agency Way next week. Thanks everyone.